I remember the sound of his footsteps, the deliberate, unhurried steps that sent ice down my spine. Even before I saw him, I felt him, a shadow looming over my existence, turning every moment of my life into a silent game of survival. Mark, the man I once loved, the man I married, the man who had slowly, methodically stolen every ounce of my freedom. I played my part well, smiling at the neighbors, waving as I walked Emily to school, laughing in the grocery store checkout line as if I weren't dying inside. No one saw the bruises carefully hidden beneath long sleeves. No one heard the way my breath hitched when he was near. No one noticed the way I flinched at sudden movements. I was an actress in the cruelest play, performing for a world that never questioned what lay beneath the surface. But Emily knew. She might not have understood everything, but she felt the tension that wrapped around our home like an invisible noose. She saw the way my hands trembled when I set the dinner table. She noticed the exhaustion in my eyes, the way I braced myself when Mark walked through the door. I tried to protect her, to shield her from the truth, but children are perceptive. She knew more than I wanted her to. I told myself that staying was better, that as long as I could absorb the worst of it, Emily would be safe, that he would never turn his rage on her. But lies have a way of unraveling, and I saw the first thread come loose the day I caught him gripping her wrist just a little too tight. Her wide, frightened eyes were a mirror of my own, and in that moment, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't let her grow up in this nightmare. I had to get us out. It wasn't as simple as walking out the door. Mark's control extended far beyond his fists. He had his hands on everything: our finances, our social lives, my independence. I had no money, no family to turn to. But I had something he underestimated: determination. A mother's love is stronger than fear, and I was willing to risk everything for my daughter's safety. I started planning. Every stolen moment, every careful step. I stashed small amounts of money whenever I could. I studied his patterns, when he came home, when he was least likely to notice. I found a shelter that could take us, memorized bus routes, and rehearsed the escape in my head over and over until I could do it blindfolded. The only thing left was waiting for the right moment. And then it came. An ordinary day, sun shining, birds chirping, neighbors chatting across picket fences. But inside our home, a storm was brewing. I saw it in the way he paced, in the way his jaw clenched, in the barely restrained anger simmering beneath his skin. I knew what was coming before he even raised his voice. I took Emily's hand, gripping it so tightly she winced. I whispered in her ear, "Run." We bolted before he could react. Down the hallway, through the door, into the blinding light of the outside world. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out everything else. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I heard him yell my name and heard the heavy slam of the door behind us. But I ran, dragging Emily with me, feet hitting the pavement in frantic, desperate strides. A bus stop. A miracle. The driver saw my face, saw the desperation, the terror, and didn't ask questions. We stumbled inside, breathless, trembling. I pulled Emily into my lap, my arms wrapped around her as if I could shield her from everything we'd just escaped. The bus pulled away, taking us further and further from the prison we had called home. For the first time in years, I felt air fill my lungs without restriction. We made it. The shelter became our haven. It wasn't much, but it was safe. I found a job, hard work, long hours, but honest. A chance to rebuild. For the first time, I was making my own choices, carving a future with my own hands. I saw Emily smile, truly smile, without fear shadowing her joy. I slept without waking up in a cold sweat. I began to heal. But Mark wasn't done. News came in whispers. He had moved on. Another woman, another victim. The cycle is repeating itself, like it always does. But this time, the world was watching. His control slipped. A violent outburst, too public to ignore. Police, sirens, flashing lights. This time, someone heard. This time, someone spoke. This time, he was taken away in cuffs, his face twisted in rage, knowing he had lost. And I was free. The relief should have been immediate, but freedom is strange when you've lived so long without it. It took time to believe it was real, to accept that I no longer had to look over my shoulder. But the moment I saw the official report, his sentencing, his punishment, I knew. Justice had caught up with him. He had no power over me anymore. The fear I had carried for so long slowly loosened its grip. My journey didn't end with escape. It continued in every choice I made after. In every meal I cooked without fear. In every bedtime story I read to Emily. She could fall asleep without nightmares. In every sunrise that greeted me with the promise of a new day, I was no longer just surviving. I was living. I am not just a survivor. I am not just a woman who ran. I am a mother who fought. A woman who rebuilt. A soul who refused to be broken. And if my story reaches even one person trapped in the darkness, if it whispers to them that they, too, can break free, then every painful step was worth it. Because the truth is this, there is always hope, always a way out. And no one deserves to live in fear. I didn't just escape, Mark. I reclaimed my life.